Apollo 13, if you saw the movie, they had a big problem, and let me show the class this. Okay, this is a pretty crude example of what the craft looked like on the way to the moon. We had, of course, the mothership. This would have been the Columbia for Apollo 11, with something else for Apollo 13. And here's the lunar lander. Now, incidentally, this thing looks like a grasshopper with its legs folded up, about ready to jump, doesn't it? That's because those legs stay folded up while it's launched into orbit in the body of the Saturn V rocket. But once they're preparing to land on the moon, those legs will spring out and they'll deploy. That's the word for deploy, so that when the engine fires, it won't burn up the landing pods. If they won't deploy, you'd make a pretty terrible landing because your feet would be burned off. That would not be good even for a grasshopper. And so what we had here is, on their way to the moon, a tank. If you saw the movie, there's a tank right here. It's an oxygen tank, and there was a malfunction, a short circuit in one of the circuits in that tank. It's a long story, but it blew up. It exploded 208,000 miles from Earth. Well, if you have no mothership, what are you going to do? Well, remember on the Titanic, if you've ever seen the movie about the Titanic, they had all these lifeboats. The problem with the Titanic was there was not enough lifeboats for all the people on board. And we had to use the lunar lander as a lifeboat. The problem was with the lunar lander, it wasn't a lifeboat for 3 people. It would just take care of 2 people, and that wouldn't even do that by its design. So our problem was how to make this 2-man ship work for 4 days to get back to Earth. Are you still hearing me? I hear little buzzing noises and popping noises. Rhonda, are you still hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's Sam?
Yep.
Okay, Sam. Hello.
Howdy.
Okay. So here we go. This thing blows up. Now here's the difficulty. In the lander, they have filters. And if the class keeps breathing and you close all the doors. Are you in the library? Is that where you folks are?
Yes.
Okay, how many are in there? Looks like quite a crowd.
About 75, Jerry.
Okay, so if Rhonda and Sam would close the doors and turn off the AC, everybody would be breathing out carbon dioxide from their lungs, and eventually you'd get drowsy and you wouldn't feel very well. Well, the same thing happened with the lunar lander. They got into the lunar lander and they had to clean the carbon dioxide out of the air for 3 men. And the trip back to Earth was 4 days, and they just had enough filters that were round to work. This is my creation of a filter that would just work for 2 days for 2 men. And my alarm system kept ringing alarms. Caution, no warning, said carbon dioxide too high. So they called me back into the office of the manager of the engineering team, and they said, Jerry, your alarm system keeps ringing alarms. I said, yes, it's working very well. He said, well, have you thought about what we should do about it? I said, no, I'm just in the business of telling when you got a failure, not to fix things. But a very intelligent engineer responsible in crew systems for these things came up with an idea. I call it a jury-rigged device. And in order to show you what I'm talking about, he had to figure out a way of making these square filters work in the round barrel in the lunar lander. Now, besides the fact that the square filters were too big, it doesn't work too well putting a square thing in a round hole, does it? That's not going to work. So, by the way, Rhonda, I've written a new song. I won't perform it yet. It's not quite, but it's... What's that?
We really want you to sing.
You want me to do the song? Okay. Well, what we'll do is I'll tell you my little story. I was going to try this out next week for my wife's class in the community college. She teaches a course in literature, reading and writing, and rhetoric. And she said at the start of each semester, she always wants me to come and tell my failure's not an option talk. I said, well, I got a new song for the program. So we'll do the song. You will be the first on planet Earth to hear a performance of the name of my tribute to duct tape. But I have to finish this demonstration first before we have our song. So here we are. How do you make these filters work in the round system? Well, obviously the square's not going to fit. So you have to come up with a solution. Well, on board, they have spacesuits. And they have a little blower in the lunar lander. It's a little blower in this lander that blows the atmosphere into the spacesuit through a hose. Well, the astronauts had this hose. This is from my wife's vacuum cleaner, by the way, I brought from home. So they had a hose like this. And, of course, they had the filters like this. But somehow you got to get the atmosphere that this blower is called the suit fan. It blows atmosphere from the cabin into the suit through this hose. So here's the caution. This is the carbon dioxide filters, and these filters are made out of what's called lithium hydroxide, and they take the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So somehow we got to get this atmosphere to blow through that. Well, it's not going to work like that because it's going to leak. So here's the very successful idea, by the way. Let me get the right bag. They took moon rock bags. See these bags here? I got these at lunchtime, by the way, at the local Kroger grocery store. And these are 2-gallon Ziploc bags. So if we can take this filter, right, like this, and put the bag around it like this, and then we can cut a hole. I have my scissor over here. You folks that teach science and so forth, cut the hole in the edge of the bag, and then what you do is, this has not been tried before, by the way. You put the hose right here, you have the bag here. Now it's blowing into this bag, but the only problem is this thing's going to leak and it's not going to work. Now the magical thing you should never be without, that's the answer that made it work. It's something called duct tape. Duct tape saved the day for the Apollo 13 crew. And this is the device that made it happen. And my alarm system stayed off and didn't come on again. And the caution and warning carbon dioxide alarm stayed off. Now, David, we're going to have to rearrange the studio for this program, okay? And here's what we'll do. Now, students, this office, by the way, this is not my day job. This is not yet. This is not my day job. I work as an engineer in the the robotics division, and so lots to do with robots and so forth. But I've worked here 47 years, so you know, as I approach my 50th year of government service, I feel like maybe this is a diversion that I can kind of supplement my technical career with. And Rhonda and others come to the Space Center in the summers, and I give a weekly talk. Some of it's in here that I'm giving you today. And as a result of Rhonda and all of them coming and writing up good reviews, they said they enjoyed me. They gave me an award this year. I am the 2012 Volunteer NASA JSC Educator of the Year. So thank you, Rhonda, okay? Now, hold the applause, hold the applause. We're going to have this demonstration. In order to do that, this is kind of a Western song. I'm from the 1950s and 60s, and there were folk groups in those days, and one was called the Kingston Trio, this was a song about a cowboy that's going across the desert, probably up towards Hereford, Texas, Amarillo, Texas, and it's real dry, and he can't find anything to drink and everything. And he looks out and he sees this well, and this well, it's great, but in order to prime a well, you have to have a little water to pour in there. Well, some guy in an old can left some water there. So because that can of water, he could pour it into the well and he'd get his water. Well, it's called, the name of the song is Desert Pete, but I've adapted this song to duct tape. But I have to have my NASA, you know, Johnny Cash hat. You know, this is Western thing. So my song, and I keep my guitar in the office, by the way. David, I'm going over to the corner to get my guitar. Show the class where my guitar's stowed. Here's where I stole my guitar, you know. The astronauts couldn't have stowed that thing on probably the lunar lander, but I can in my office, you see. And so here's my guitar. By the way, this is my work guitar. It's not my favorite guitar. The one I do better on is at home. And so what I try to do, we haven't worked that out yet, but I try to show a video alongside when I'm playing the guitar. So that way you're not looking at me and seeing me foul up. You're just seeing the video and listening to the song. So if you, by the way, if you'll go to YouTube and put my name in the search thing, Jerry Woodfill, and put down Wasn't It a Mighty Day? Or put down, I wrote a song called Johnny H. Glenn Go. It's about Johnny Glenn, and it's modeled after Chuck Berry's song Johnny Be Good. So it's gotten 3,800 hits on the Apollo 13 song, and the Johnny Glenn song just up to 600. But everyone in the class will go there. I'll add about 75 more viewings. Okay, go ahead. Well, their spaceship exploded 200,000 miles in space. Too few CO2 round filters, man. Death was in their face. But their damaged mothership had plenty that were square. How to fit those square filters into a round hole was their prayer. So they looked around that spaceship to find a way, and found something that just might work that day. Now, no rocket science would they need for this device. It was an old roll of duct tape that would work very nice. You got to use what you have faith and believe, 'cause the plain things in life are all free to receive. Failure's no option when life's problems show up, 'cause simple things will help us give thanks for everyday stuff. So they grabbed those square filters and took that gray duct tape, along with the spacesuit hose and moon rock bag to make. And while mission control worked to do the same, it was that orange board duct tape that won the game. No need for rocket science or theoretical computation. That roll of sticky adhesive defies all mathematician. A solution for every unforeseen test. Don't ever be without it, huh? Duct tape always works the best. You got to use what you have faith and believe. The plain things in life all are blessed to receive. Failure's no option when life's problems show up. So simple things will help us give thanks for everyday stuff. Now a huge hand for the guitar player. Hey, that was the first performance of Ode Tribute to Duct Tape. So thank you for indulging me on that, Sam and Rhonda and class. Okay.